In this week's Golf Insights, we're going to talk about the evolution of golf equipment, and we haven't got a more qualified man in Australia to actually help us out with this topic than introduce Mr. Peter Thomson, 5-time British Open winner, 3-time Australian Open winner, 9 times New Zealand Open winner, Canadian. It goes on and on and on, Peter. It's an absolute privilege to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
My first question: how much research and development went into when you carried your first set of clubs on your first British Open?
You mean my personal search and development?
Yes.
Well, that was what we who try to make a living out of playing golf was obsessed with, I suppose, to find a set of clubs that was better than anybody else's.
Sure.
And because they were handmade, of course, every set of clubs was quite different. And so the search went on, particularly with a driver and a putter. Those two clubs. I went through thousands of them.
Did you? Yeah.
None of them any good.
Peter, did you modify any of them in your garage, or did you have a workshop?
And also the firm of PGF, I'm hoping we can name.
Of course, and they're making a big comeback too, PGF.
Precision Golf Forging.
That's right. That was with my encouragement, doing a lot of research into shapes, golf head shapes, and shafts, of course,
yes.
and even grips.
Right.
You know, we were experimenting with different materials for grips. But pressing ahead, I mean, the technology was not as spectacular as it is now, but it was certainly there.
Sure. So what was the biggest innovation in your time to the golf club, would you say, in your opinion?
Well, of course, the advent of carbon shafts,
right? Yeah,
and the metal heads.
Yes,
that's the biggest change.
It has, yeah.
But Peter, what about the change from the small to the larger ball? How did you see that affecting golf during that era?
Well, I was against it and said so, but it was an attempt for the unification of the rules between the transatlantic people, the Americans and the British, and we got crushed in the middle of it. Anyway, that's an episode in itself, but to cut it short, the small ball is more difficult to play with than a large one.
Right.
Now that applies to any bat and ball game you can think of.
Yes.
It's bigger to hit, and of course it sits better on the grass.
Yeah, sure.
On the fairways. And of course when it was sort of ordered in Australia, this is what the ball we're going to play with, it proved to be very popular because, of course, it's easier. And who's going to say, well, no, I should play with the more difficult ball? But apropos that, the Canada Cup at Royal Melbourne, America sent two of its two best players, Sam Snead and Kerry Middlecoff. Middlecoff playing with the small ball for, well, not the first time, but he was completely at sea.
Yes.
He just couldn't
come
handle it. Couldn't handle it. And he was never the same again, actually. No. When he went back to the US, he never won or got near winning, I think, and he won the US Open twice and the Masters two or three times. But anyway, that's history, and we're all with a larger ball.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the future they want a larger one still yet, make it easier than ever.
Well, I know that you've got a very, very simple solution to, like a lot of our golf courses are becoming a little redundant now, so they're hitting the ball so far, and you've got a very simple solution to arrest that problem, and it's sort of conform the ball so everybody doesn't hit it as far. Is that the first
That's correct.
comment?
It's the flight of the ball is the aerodynamics of it, and that's determined by the dimple pattern, or the fact that it is dimpled. If you have a ball, and the RNA demonstrate this with their testing machine at St Andrews, if you tee up a ball without any dimples at all, it can't penetrate air.
No.
And it won't go 200 yards or 180 metres.
Sure.
Will not, no matter how hard you whack it.
Amazing.
Because the faster you hit it, the more resistance it gets.
Indeed, yeah.
But looking back to the halfway stage, say in the 1950s, there were dimples on the golf ball, and had been for 100 years, no, 50 years. And but there were, say, 200 of them, and they were small enough that there was enough cover of the ball between each one.
All right.
In other words, they didn't join.
Yes.
But if you look at a modern ball now, the dimples are not round. They're sometimes
elongated,
octagonals or hexagonals. Yeah. They actually join together.
Yes.
and there's no surface of the ball, no area of the surface that's not dimpled.
Mm.
So this is what gives it aerodynamics.
Yeah.
Now, all we have to do is to bring the ball back to where it ought to be, in my
Right.
view, is to reinstate the dimples that were there in the 1950s.
50s, yeah.
Or number them, say 200 maximum,
Yeah,
size, whatever, a millimetre or something.
yeah.
And then the manufacturers can actually do their own patterns and whatever they want to try and convince we poor dopes
Mm.
that their ball is better than someone
Yeah,
else's.
sure
So-
extent.
So it wouldn't matter what trampoline effect driver you had, you would still have that ball.
Well, that's the trampoline effect, if there is any. It's absolutely negligible.
Sure,
Mm,
compared
sure.
to the ball influence,
Yes.
which is quite big.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Peter, it sounds like a very simple solution. Is it an economic reason why they won't conform and maybe have a ball of your description?
Yes, they're first of all hoping it'll go away, the
Yes.
problem. But secondly, they're not convinced that, well, they are convinced, but they can't do it.
No.
America doesn't want to go. There's a party in America who think that it's enjoyable for the ball to go so far.
Yeah, well,
And that applies to the majority of golfers. It's only the professional tour stuff
sure.
that's affected by the fact that the ball goes a long way.
Mm.
And to a certain extent that's true. And they sort of push it over to the pro side, the tour side.
Mm.
But Peter, the golf companies have such a big stake in the game that they almost hold the rules committees to ransom, don't they? With the power they have with the court cases, you only have to look at Carsten Solheim and Ping Golf to see that. It's a shame that money gets in the way of all these things, isn't it?
Yes, but it's a fact of business.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
The game of golf is so commercialised in so many ways now. It's irresistible, unstoppable.
Yeah. Well, Peter, thanks very much for your insights into the golf equipment
Okay.
evolution. It's been terrific to have you on, and hopefully we'll have you back a little bit later on to talk about golf course architecture, if you wouldn't mind. And you're very big there in that business too. So thanks again for coming on the show, Peter.
Thank you.